Well, here we go. I can't avoid it anymore, can I? Because it's here. It's fucking here. Psychotic cunt, my, has entered the chat. Which means I can't avoid talking about why this, based on premise alone, is the single worst fucking thing this franchise has ever done. And I say that knowing several things which arguably could be more, horrifying or terrifying or whatever. But at least those have the added benefit. Like, this franchise will do stupid shit, right? A child murderer gets away with just being arrested instead of being eaten by one of the Earthbound Immortals, for example. We'll get to that fucker in 5 days, right? The fucking mind control parasites in Arc 5. Hey, complete with creepy scientist. All of that shit is more horrifying and terrible and awful and yada yada yada. But in terms of just sheer what the fuck were the writers thinking, in my opinion, there is no single element that is worse handled than turning to the dark side. And I stand behind that 100%. This is my pod to cot to do an equivalent from the lore runner. The lore runner hates the concept of what he calls pod to cot. In other words, the character of Gul Dukat from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I should probably put an image of him up. Gul Dukat from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And, post the episode Sacrifice of Angels from season 6. Yes, season 6. From season 6, I want to say that's episode 6. That sounds about right. Because the premise of this alone angers me. Now, good execution can salvage it, right? That's the whole point of Yugioh effect, after all. No, I don't think good execution could ever save this premise. It could make it tolerable. It could, at the very least, just be a blip, right? But then the KC Grand Prix happened. Then Grand Championship happened. Now, I know what some of you are saying to me. Hey, Blue Wolf, what the hell did Grand Championship do? Like, why are you bringing up Grand Championship in relation to Mai? It didn't do anything with Mai. Except that's my point. Mai should have been in that fucking secondary filler arc so that we could actually deal with the fallout of turning Mai into a evil puppy strangling bitch. But instead, she's absent. No follow up. The most she gets is a mention in the first episode of the arc, of the KC Grand Prix arc in the sub. I don't even remember if she gets a mention in the dub. Joey might actually mention, because there's very little apparently that has changed between the sub and the dub for Grand Championship, because that's how ineffectual that arc is. I actually have a headache after going through this episode, and I mean that sincerely. Now, what's funny is that you may be asking, okay, Blue Wolf, why are you dealing with unexpected enemy by itself as opposed to just making it, making this the 4-part My Freaky Valentine thing and just giving it Rant View and be done with it? Because the dub basically screws this around, which kind of serves my purposes anyway, especially if the challenge ends up not being Rant View. Because if the challenge ends up being Rant View, I'm just going to tack it on to Fate of the Pharaoh. I'll go ahead and be 100% blunt and honest about that. But yeah, no, Alright, look. Let me go ahead and talk about the whole concept of turning heroes into villains, okay? Because that's really what we got to talk about here. I'm not going to touch the PTSD angle because that's not even in this episode. That's in the actual 3-parter, or what the dub calls the 3-parter. Because this episode literally ends with a "to be continued," which just begs the question: why didn't they just make this My Freaky Valentine Part 1 and make it a 4-parter? I'm pretty sure they'll do the same thing with the challenge too, where it will literally end with Atem riding towards his duel with Raphael, and the words "to be continued" on the screen. So, shrug. Naming fail from 4Kids, but I can see why they didn't want to put too much effort into this because, fucking seriously, this was a dumb idea from the get-go. Anyways, heroes turning into villains. Okay, that I have nothing to say about the episode proper. I've got nothing to fucking say about it. There's no dueling. There's barely any action. I mean, oh whoopity doo, my beats up some Doma thugs. Thugs, which the dub makes expressly clear. Yeah, they're Doma thugs, which is supposed to make us think that Mai is still on our side. Until the flashback where we reveal that no, really, she's actually psychotically evil, which we actually guessed based solely on the fact that we saw her silhouette in her earlier episode with Pegasus, and then we cut to the outside of the building with Pegasus screaming, "No!" Ugh. It's like, we're not idiots, Gallop. Come on. And that's especially an egregious crime for Gallup to pull, is specifically because this show was aimed at a teen audience in Japan, both manga and anime. Ugh. Because yeah, that's all that happens. They get attacked by the thugs. They get saved by Mai. Only Joey gets a glimpse of both Harpy Lady and the eyes in the helmet. Impressive work recognizing her, by the way, which just further shows that this feels like an attack on all of the Joey and Mai shippers. That's what this fucking feels like. Remove the in-universe explanation. The out of universe, the out of universe reasoning for this feels like a fuck the shippers. Fuck, as in fuck over the shippers. Shippers, right? Because they don't matter. We're just gonna tell this fucking story. We're just gonna tell this story, which on paper sounds interesting. PTSD victim is taken advantage of by a cult. Okay, interesting. The problem is that once you start peeling back the layers of this thing, you start to realize the flaws with doing this in DM at all. Because because doing this kind of thing at all runs into four major problems. Ironic because this is season 4, but regardless, there's 4 major problems that this idea runs into. Okay, when you're doing it in DM, the first is we've already dealt with a cult, the ghouls. Merrick and that all that shit. We've already dealt with a cult. So that's problem number one. It's basically repeating the same beats. I mean, some people even say that Darts looks like Merrick in some ways, which actually makes this worse, but we'll touch on that more next week. So that's problem number one. We've done this already. It's treaded ground. Problem number two. Problem number two is you are obviously not going to do this to, a non-dual. They didn't want to do this to a non-duelist. So doing this to Taya completely out the window, and she wouldn't turn to the dark side anyway because she's too much of a simp for Yugi, and Tim. I would argue now. I know mostly the idea is supposed to be she simps more for the feral, but I find that's more of a conflict within her. Right? She kind of flip flops about whether or not she's calling out to Yugi or to a Tem. Right? Which is funny because I would argue she calls out to Yugi more often, but that's beside the point. So you can't do this with Teo, okay. And because, non-duelists, they weren't going to do, say, Serenity. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a bit of a preview of my changes section. Okay, this is a bit of a spoiler for next week's video. But, you know how you fix this instantaneously? You don't make it Mai. You make it Serenity. And you don't have Joey be the one to get the Claw of Heramos. You have Mai do it. Now, okay, admittedly, you could have Joey get the Claw of Heramos, so that way we can have, Time Magic Hammer, Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword, Goddess Bow. Was there anything? Oh, yeah. Rocket Heramos Cannon. And then, Big Bang Dragon Blow was the other one. And, all those cards can be fine. You know what I would have done instead? Valen is Joey's enemy. Have it be Serenity. Have it be Shizuka that turns to the dark side. Now, you might think, that's doesn't make any sense, Blue Wolf. She's innocent and pure and all this other stuff. Yes. But what does a cult do to normal, pure, innocent people? Cults corrupt them. They make them do things that are wrong, apprehensible, all of that shit. That is how you make there be stakes. Now you're probably thinking, well, that means we wouldn't be doing anything with Mai's character. Yes, you would. She shows up. She helps. Her character arc is to pull her, who has effectively become her sister, out of the goddamn fire. Like maybe pull some stuff of of Mai just kind of seeing Serenity as a surrogate sister, and that drives her hard. Maybe have Joey just caving into despair because, oh my god, my sister turned evil and all of this other shit, and everything's getting ruined, and we gotta get, it's just it's this despair that is slowly eating away at Joey. Which could eventually have Heramos kind of abandon him because the strength of his soul is weakening over the course of the season. Right? Instead of having, the duels be a two-parter, or a technical four and two technical four-parters before we get to, the big stretch of the fucking despair subplot after Fate of the Pharaoh, have it be that Joey is getting knocked down instead of this being, and kind of have, let's actually have what some people claim this arc is about actually be what this arc is about, because this arc isn't about anything except an evil cult with an evil magic circle. That's all it is. The only thing different between the freaking ghouls and Doma is literally the barrier of Orichalcos. That's literally it. That's literally the only difference between Merrick and Darts. Hertz is the weapon of choice, the main weapon of choice. For Merrick, is the Winged Dragon of Ra. For Darts, it's the Seal of Orichalcos. That's it. That's the only difference. They still corrupt people. They still screw people over. Yada yada yada. You can't even claim good guys turning bad is unique to Doma either, because of Merrick's mind control. Dark Joey, hello. And then it gets even worse. And then this gets even worse when you put it under more scrutiny, because the thing is that this is also, you're going against the fans, right? Because in my opinion, the fans did not want an evil woman we had to fucking take down. That's not what we wanted out of Mai. At least no fan in my opinion, no fan who actually fucking cared about good storytelling wanted to see. We didn't want to see Mai go to the fucking dark side and have to be taken down by a man. You know, want to know what we wanted to fucking see? Mai taking down a creep like Valen who's trying to get in her pants. That's what we wanted to see. Not her fucking wanting to kill Joey because I was being held back, even though no, I fucking wasn't. Oh. The more I analyze, the more I examine this story, this season, the more I am looking at this like, what the hell were the writers thinking with this? Because, and again, the whole idea of somebody who's suffering from PTSD, because that's going to be the explanation. I keep saying that. The PTSD that Mai feels, leading her to a cult. That someone like Mai is suffering, leading her to be taken advantage of by a cult. Okay, that actually makes a large degree of sense. Except that's not what happens here. If you actually pay attention to the animation, what literally happens is, what we literally will see is, and I know because I've seen the backstory, seen in the sub too. What we literally see is Maya's despairing and being troubled and all this other stuff. All Darts does is just take his finger and touch her forehead, and bam! Now she's evil Mai. Her eyes, the look on her face, her expression literally changes to evil Mai, and that's it. That's how evil Mai is born. That's not Mai agreeing with the fucking cult and them doing something with it. This is literally mind control in another form. It's just, instead of the Millennium Rod thing, it is literally the Dark Joey thing. Instead of the mind control that happened with Anzu, it's literally the Dark Joey thing. They literally have just repeated another plot point. At least when Duel Monster Quest did that, It felt like a celebration of the first season of the show. This this just feels like like I'll get my own mind control subplot with blackjack and hookers. Except instead of the joke being screw the frickin' mind control subplot, it's literally screw the mind control and the blackjack. Heck, we're just going to turn one of the characters into a fucking hooker. The other analogy you can make with this that I have come up with is drug use. You know, the orichalcos is a drug kind of thing. I feel like they wasted their time with this. Now you could say, well, Blue Wolf, we still have like 30 episodes of the arc to go. Yes, yes, you're right. I mean, technically we have 33. Hang on, before I put my foot in my mouth. Yes, we have 33. About 33 episodes to go. You know what we're going to spend our time on with that? Three episodes of my being a bitch to Joey. Then a standalone episode where Raphael is just like, okay, enough of this, it's my turn, and get the fuck over here, Pharaoh. Then 3 episodes of us fucking over Atem's character. I'm never letting that go. Then we have another standalone episode to deal with which slightly deals with the fallout of that. Then we have I want to say it's like a 4-parter dealing with oh no, nope. We have I'm pretty sure it's a standalone episode that we deal with that, and then I think there's another standalone episode where Rex and Weevil turn to the dark side. That's far more believable, by the way. Weevil because he's pure fucking evil, and Rex because, well, the whole series has been treating him like a goddamn punching bag, like, since season 1. And then and then and then what is that, like 5 episodes dealing with uh with Joey trying to get Mai back. Heck, 2 episodes with finishing off Hilda, and then another 3 episodes to finally deal with Raphael, and then 6 episodes to duel darts with a final 2-parter to finally put this arc to bed. Honestly, I gotta say, I feel like you could have trimmed down probably all of those to give us a few episodes where we actually try to deal with the consequences of stuff. Maybe explore what the Orichalcos does to people. But the problem is that it's just an evil magic power that with ill-defined magic powers. Oh, you can generate your own shadow aims. Okay, where was that established? You know? This is the problem that I have with the Orichalcos, the whole people saying that the Orichalcos generates your own shadow aims. By the way, the rules on the Orichalcos have remained consistent, by the way. Well, actually, no, I take that back. They're not consistent, are they? Because creatures of fire. So never mind. We actually have inconsistencies because I forgot. Gorlag and the fire attribute thing. Oops. So, yeah, again, let's have some consistency here. Because apparently it's going to be a bunch of fiend monsters in Fate of the Pharaoh, but whatever. I feel as though my point is that it feels like the Orichalcos was just not handled well. In my blunt opinion, we really should have we really should have went ahead and uh, established the Orichalcos in some way. And like I said, for the love of God, we didn't need my getting fucked over to being brought over to the dark side. We didn't. That was not something we needed, and it was not something we wanted. We didn't want evil Mai. We didn't want Mai to dress up like a fucking biker babe unless she was pulling a dominatrix outfit for Joey. Because we didn't need it. This is literally just padding at this point. Mai's entire crap, Mai's entire fucking shtick in this arc is nonsensical in my opinion. Because they didn't follow through. If they had followed through, if there had been follow up in the KC Grand Prix, which I fresh reminder, there isn't. But if the KC Grand Prix had actually had some follow up, and we had my, and we had my try to make up for her mistakes instead of just riding off into the sunset and being done with it forever. I think I could have been a lot more okay with this. I still would have thought it was stupid and wished it never would have frickin' happened. I mean, I'm the one who gave him the fucking Mai versus Yami Merrick duel rant view, for fuck's sakes, because I hate that three-parter and that duel with every fiber of my being, because again, it's plot, contrivance, playhouse. But in the end, these are indeed the cards we've been dealt. It's too bad we had to make one of the shittiest decks in the world hurled out of them. And it only gets worse from here, guys, because next week, well, now we gotta deal with the fucking duel. We gotta deal with Joey facing off against Mai for the second of 3 times, and in my opinion, probably the worst time out of the 3. Yeah, first duel is kind of boring, admittedly, but at least it doesn't contain character assassination. I feel free to disagree with me in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week for my freaky Valentine. Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. I would have a good one. Oh, one more thing I should add right here at the end before I chop off. Sorry, one last thing. Why wasn't this rant view? It didn't have the oomph to drag it down. And no, turning Mai evil was not the justification. No, that's going to come next week when we decide that a PTSD to treat a PTSD victim like she needs a man to bail her out of her PTSD. Blue Wolf Alex Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. Fuck this episode. Duel standby.